youth mental health, the real pandemic. Aside from COVID-19, COVID-19 has had numerous effects on people's mental health, whether that be the elderly, the youth, teenagers, or little children. And we've got very special guests coming in. We've got the Muslim Youth Helpline, an organization that works and offers a free phone service to Muslim youth and youth generally to talk about their mental health and give them solutions to their mental health and how to better their mental health and maintain a good mental health, how to maintain good mental health. So we've got our first guest, Maria Mahmood, who's the director of Muslim Youth Helpline, and we've got Hadil Noor, who's the helpline manager at Muslim Youth Helpline. This is a live discussion with these two ladies from Muslim Youth Helpline. I'll be asking them various questions about mental health, and we'll be talking about, you know, some of the recent youth that they have spoken to who are suffering from weak mental health, who may be suffering from anxiety, depression, stress and stuff like that. I've also done a few podcasts on mental health and the stigma attached to mental health in the Southeast Asian community, how it is a taboo topic and not a lot of people have spoken about it. So we'll be speaking about that as well, and we'll be speaking about other topics as well. It's a open platform, so if you have any questions, I'll be monitoring the YouTube and Facebook chats, and you can just send your questions in there, and I'll be asking these two ladies from the Muslim Youth Helpline to speak about, to answer your questions. So feel free to send your questions in, and hopefully we'll be asking them a lot of questions. But before we do that, just a quick hello to Maria Mahmood. I'm not sure if you guys can see her, but she will give a brief introduction about Muslim Youth Helpline and what they've done. So without further delay, Maria Mahmood from Muslim Youth Helpline.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the introduction. And it's a privilege to be here and to speak about a topic that's very, very important. You'll be hearing from me and my colleague, Hadil. We are part of Muslim Youth Helpline. We are a confidential support service, and we were founded in 2001. And we are targeted at vulnerable young people in the UK. And so we provide faith and culturally sensitive emotional support and signposting by phone, email, online chat, and most recently, we added WhatsApp to our services. And the helpline is open every day from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. and you can call in and speak to some of our helpline officers to get some emotional support, and we'll just have a chat, and we'll be there to guide you. So like I said, we were set up in 2001 to provide young British Muslims with sensitive support that is sensitive to their culture and their religion. And it was actually set up by an 18-year-old. So it was set up by an 18-year-old called Mohammed Mamdani with two of his friends from college. And they set up the helpline from their bedroom. And so, I mean, for me, that's such a beautiful story because it shows that he clearly felt a gap in services available to young people. He may have personally felt it. He may have felt it whilst he was talking to his friends or his colleagues or his classmates, wherever that may be, but you know, he felt that need, and he created something that would resonate with young people. And so, I mean, this year we're celebrating our 20th anniversary. So for 20 years, Muslim Youth Helpline has been supporting young Muslims.
That's really that's quite a large number. 20 years you guys have been operating, helping people with mental health and stuff like that. That's crazy. But yeah, I mean, fantastic work, because I think over the years mental health has increased in teenagers and in children, and there's a variety of different factors that I personally believe contribute directly to mental health, especially after 2000. like the new millennium, I think like social media and stuff like that has played a lot, like a massive role in destabilizing mental health in teenagers and kids and stuff like that, like Instagram, Facebook. There was Ask FM as well, which was really big, I think, because there was a lot of bullying going on around Ask FM, which caused a lot of mental health problems in children and teenagers. So yeah, I mean, fantastic to hear. I personally haven't heard about Muslim helpline before, but it's, you know, a fantastic initiative, and to find out that you guys have been operating for 20 years, it's a massive achievement. So a massive congratulations to you guys. We're still waiting on
I've just got a message. So she's obviously having technical issues, but
yeah,
only letting her be a viewer. So I don't know if you guys can sort that out.
I have added her to the chat, the webinar now. I believe she is here. So we'll move on to Hadia quickly. Just a brief introduction to Hadia. She also works with Maria and the Muslim Youth Helpline. So without any further delay, we'll introduce her. I think you're muted.
I think you might have to unmute her.
Yeah, there. Can you hear me?
Just a heads up, she's calling in from Canada, so
Oh, that's quite far away.
It is far away.
No, we can't hear you, sorry.
We just got her on and now we can't hear her. This is
I know, it happens, technical difficulties. I've unmuted you, so it might be an issue on your side. But yeah, calling in from Canada, that's quite far away. So she works from Canada, or she's gone there on...
She works from the UK, but like so many similar stories, she's in lockdown in Canada.
Oh, that is... Okay, sure. So yeah, I mean, a massive, you know, thank you to her for coming in from, you know, tuning in from all the way from Canada, which is quite far away. It's probably because you're far away, there might be technical.
Yeah, it's the weak internet in Canada, hey?
So I've asked you to unmute. I'm not sure if that works. No, can't hear you. And there might be something wrong with the laptop you're using, perhaps. No, still can't hear you. It might be. Okay, that's fine. She said she's gonna go and then come back.
Right. Okay.
Not, you know, very.
I hope she does come back.
Yeah. She's not just gonna disappear on us.
Like, I tried.
But yeah, you know, the role of Hardbill is. Do you just want to briefly explain her role? Oh, she's back. She's back. Oh no. Do you want to join via a phone, maybe? Yeah. So.
Yay!
Oh, yes, hallelujah! Finally.
I'm so sorry.
What was the issue?
It just said I had to restart something because my microphone wasn't working apparently. So I'm so sorry because I know you guys started. I was watching.
We're so happy you can join us.
Yes. Yeah. So do you just want to talk about your role with the Muslim Youth Helpline and how you help Maria and the organization run?
Sure. So I'm the helpline manager. So I work directly with the helpline officers. I line manage them, and then Maria is my line manager. So I'm responsible for foreseeing what's happening on the helpline directly, and then how that helps the organization overall. I feed back to Maria a lot about what's happening on the helpline while Maria oversees the organization as a whole. So I'm more of like on the ground level.
Hadil,
Sorry?
Hadil is very integral to understanding some of the primary concerns that are coming into the helpline, and to make sure that the service is running at optimal making sure that, you know, we are giving the best service to our to the young people. And if there is a safeguarding concern, you know, she is the lead on that. So she's very integral to what happens on the ground between the service user and then the service provider.
No,
and she does that
fantastic to
all the
hear. I
way
mean,
from
everyone's got
Canada.
that is pretty, you know, amazing. But, you know, everyone's got to play their part in an organization in this to make sure it runs smoothly. And, you know, the people who are coming in to, you know, for you guys to help them, that they are getting the right support and stuff like that. So, you know, it's fantastic to hear that. So in terms of like the amount of people who you know, are in the organization of Muslim Youth Helpline, how many people do you have that, you know, run the helpline and provide this service?
So there's myself in management, there's myself and Hadil, and then we have a wonderful group of helpline officers who run the helpline service. And so currently we have about 5 plus a volunteer. Now these individuals, although myself and Hadil, you know, we are the face of the organization, the real hard work is done by them. And for obvious reasons, you know, they can't be here, but, you know, they are the helpline officers, and they are the people that run the helpline service. They are answering your calls, your emails, your web chats, your WhatsApps, and they are there to provide emotional support to you, depending on, you know, what your concerns are, and dealing with your concerns, and also then de-escalating those calls and making sure that we're signposting you to the right organizations if you need additional support.
So in terms of both of your backgrounds, do you guys hold degrees in like a particular topic, like psychology or something of that sort that might be related to mental health, or maybe not?
Yeah, I'll let Hadil go first.
I think mine is related. I did my undergraduate in psychology in Canada, and then I moved to the UK to do my master's in global mental health. So I did that specifically because I wanted to work with marginalized groups and people who had less access to mental health support, as well. Being in the Western world, usually mental health support is quite secular and not necessarily focused on cultural or religious understanding. So MYH was a great fit based on what I was able to study.
That's really good. Maria?
Oh, mine is so linear. So I did, my undergrad was in law, and then my master's was in economic development, and then
So completely not related to mental health.
Not at all. And my first job, I actually moved to Dubai. I was there for 3 years working for a strategic communications company. I worked for projects in India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, mostly on government relations and like work on public health, like polio initiatives. And actually some of the projects I was working on there were regarding youth and a lot of the impact of mental health on young people. And then I moved back to the UK, and I joined MYH as chair on their board of trustees, because I wanted to find an organization that really kind of brought all of my interests and a cause that I really, really wanted to work for. And then I joined as director in 2020.
So you've got like a lot to bring to the table in essence. Like you've got a lot of experiences: Dubai, law, economics. I'm doing law at undergraduate at the moment, and it's very, very stressful. So I might have to, you know, take a bit of advice off you after this. But you know, it's amazing to hear. You know, like you don't know where life's going to take you at the end of the day. Like you do something, and you know, numerous other doors open. Like, you know, you did law, then economics, then you went to Dubai. You worked in Afghanistan, India, Pakistan. But little did you know that you're going to end up running a mental health helpline, which is, you know, so beneficial to so many people. And it's probably more beneficial than, you know, the projects you've potentially done in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. Like, I personally think like the purpose of human lives is to like help people and alleviate trouble from other people's lives in the best way you can. And that's like a principle that I think every person should live by, because we live in this, like, on the same land, under the same sky, we drink the same water. So, you know, that's something that I really, like, deep down in my heart, I believe in. But, you know, it's fantastic to, you know, see you guys doing this kind of work.
I'd let Hadil come in on this as well, but I think we both agree that okay, number one is we all have a purpose, and if you've got an opportunity to do something, you grab it with both hands. And I see this work as a blessing and an opportunity, and it's given to particular people. Everyone has opportunities come to them, and you've got to identify what you're going to do with that. Another thing is that you're right about the work that we do, which is very different to the world that I lived 3 years ago. Like that lifestyle is very, very different. But with this organization, we're so close to the service users. And we're a small organization, and we every day we identify some of those top concerns that are going on the night before on the helpline. So, those stories are so close to us, and, we work so closely with the helpline officers to really identify what are the common concerns on the ground. And so with the other types of work that I've done, you're so far removed from, the impact. I feel like in MPH, you're so close to that impact. And I mean, Hadil, what do you think about, the work that we do and being such a small organization?
No, I agree completely. I think I was a bit far removed as well. A lot of my background was research. And so you don't necessarily get to see what that research is doing. I think what's great about MYH is, although we conduct a lot of research, like Maria said, on a daily basis, to understand what our service users need, it's more so about delivery now and not necessarily just about understanding. It's great that we're able to actually do something with the information that we get from our helpline officers, whether that's expanding the knowledge of our helpline officers, whether that's expanding our outreach and focusing on different groups and what they need in the UK.
I mean, that's great to hear. Like, for me personally, I don't know what I'm going to do after this law degree as of yet, but I'm sure after I've completed it,
MYH.
It'd be something that I'd be willing to,
apparently.
it's something that I would willingly contribute to while I'm studying my law degree and stuff. So yeah, maybe we should look into that, because it's something which I personally think is a very, very important topic. I mean, we're going through Children's Mental Health Week right now, from I believe the 2nd of February to the 9th of February it begins and ends. So in terms of this time period so far, we're on the 5th of February. How many children roughly have you received, or teenagers received calls from, or helped, who are suffering from weak mental health?
Do you want me to take over, Maria?
I really like how you guys wait for each other to talk, but none of you ends up talking. So perhaps we'll have Maria go first, and then we'll have Hadil go after.
That's great. You take the pressure, Maria.
I mean, the organization started in 2001, and since then we have supported over 70,000 young people. And last year, if we take 2020, for instance, the traffic coming into the helpline was 7,000. The 7,000 young people reached us. And on a daily basis, we get up between 15 to 20 calls coming in. Now, the trouble is that, we get a lot of missed calls as well. So, on the ground, we're getting a lot of traffic. We're trying to support as many young people as possible. As an organization in 2020, so I'd say the whole of 2020, but mostly more after February, we saw a huge rise in the number of calls coming in. And so our traffic into the helpline increased by 313%. It was a very difficult year, very similar to what is happening now currently with our third lockdown, but that was reflected in the traffic coming in, and then also the types of calls that were coming in, the types of concerns of young people. It was a difficult period, and that was really reflected in what we saw on the helpline.
I mean, you both have different roles. So in terms of Hadil being a helpline manager, was it a helpline manager? Am I right? Yeah. So like, what kind of things did you find in your role in terms of that amount of people coming in or calling in for you to kind of like just talk to them, provide them that support?
So I don't work directly on the helpline, so I don't speak directly with the service users, but we noticed, like Maria said, not only an increase in call, but the severity of the calls increased as well. So in 2019, we had about 300 calls related to mental health concerns. These are serious concerns such as like depression, anxiety, clinical presentations. In 2020, that number more than doubled to over 600. And then even through 2020, as we tracked the number of calls we had relating to suicide, it was on an upward incline throughout the year, especially after lockdown was announced. So as a helpline manager, that kind of changes your perspective in terms of how prepared our helpline officers are, both well-being wise, but also information wise about how they can tackle these concerns. So what we did was Mari and I were able to have mental health first aid training done for the helpline officers, so they could become qualified, and we became qualified in that too, which was nice as well. But they learned different skills they could use to help tackle these types of issues that come to our helpline. So from a helpline manager's perspective, it's more so, okay, we have this information. Are our helpline officers prepared for it? And then also, what can we do to provide back to the community that's going through this?
That's kind of like, it kind of makes sense as well, because a lot of people throughout the lockdown, their mental health has been going quite low in terms of like it's been growing weaker and weaker. And I think like in terms of like the elderly as well, and more so university students nowadays as well, I think loneliness is a big contributing factor to mental health. So how many, like, did you get any students calling in, or did you, like university students who, are isolated in their dorms, university dorms calling in? Do you just want to shed some light on that? Maria.
You have to say the name now because we're just waiting for it. Yeah, I mean, if we look at some of the causes of mental health during lockdown and why some of the young people are calling in, I mean, there are countless reasons, but the lack of routine and the unknown that COVID has brought on the lockdown to the educational system, exams, whether they're taking it or not, that was a very hard hit around the exam season, and also then during results time as well, because there were so many concerns around people not getting the results that they wanted to. I mean, initially the government had said, do not defer your year to university, make sure you're still going. And then when people weren't getting there and then not deferring their year to university and then not getting their grades, it almost put them in a very difficult position. These are young people who have been working so hard towards these grades and these exams, and suddenly that's been taken away from them. Looking at other causes of mental health during lockdown, family issues, the huge issue that's coming into the helpline. A lot of people living in close proximity with their family under lockdown conditions, not able to maybe have a breather or a respite. A lot of family members who are themselves going through anxiety because of COVID, the stress of COVID, loss of routine and school because of school and university. A lot of young people calling in discussing their future and how the lockdowns impacted that. Loss of employment. I mean, the young generation are the ones that will be impacted by loss of employment. Their Saturday jobs, their day jobs, lots of outlets and shopping centers being closed. The young people are the ones that are hardest hit. So when we look at some of the backlash from lockdown and the consequences of lockdown, it primarily has been impacting the BME community and then young people, and we see that coming into the helpline. You mentioned loneliness and isolation. That's been a huge issue for young people, especially those that do need support and have not been able to tap into those resources because of lockdown. They are not coping well, and they've been using our helpline to almost as a buffer for that. The Muslim community has, and we all know this, has been impacted and continues to be impacted by loss and death due to COVID. That bereavement, it's a huge impact on young people and how they're coping, whether that's a loss of a parent, the sickness of a parent, now they've become carers or grandparents. It's not being able to tap into your usual coping mechanisms that's really had an impact on them. And I think what really is coming through into the helpline is the lack of routine and the unknown. I mean, as adults, we are finding it difficult because we're not sure, how long this is going to be going on for, and we're not sure what the next step is. And this is our third lockdown, and we're almost looking to like lockdown 1 and how amazing lockdown 1 was, and we're comparing lockdowns now, but that has really had an impact on young people, and I think we almost forget to bring them to the table and ask them, how are you feeling, because we're all going through it at the moment.
Like since the first lockdown as well, a lot of people have suffered with the passing on of their loved ones, like deaths of their friends, family around them. And I think that's another, huge factor that, has an effect on your mental health quite like enormously, I believe, possibly more than loneliness and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like, how do you guys, so obviously if you guys receive missed calls from people who obviously you can't answer, do you guys get back in contact with them, or do you arrange, a specific appointment for them, like a call time, tomorrow at 6 p.m. we'll give you a ring, this, that? How do you guys, what's the word I'm looking for? How do you guys cope with that? How do you guys do that?
So our callers are mostly anonymous. So unless they leave us a specific message on our voicemail saying, can you please call back at this time, or on web chat, they're able to leave a message even if we can't get back to them, and we can send them an email to further that communication with them. But because of the nature of our helpline, we don't want to be reaching out to people. And also we don't have a record of how they're contacting us either, because again, we're an anonymous helpline. So unless they specifically ask for it, we're unable to really contact them back.
Okay, so I've got a few more questions here. A few people have sent me questions as well. So the first one is, what are top 3 issues facing youth and top 3 solutions for them? So I think this person means like top 3 issues facing youth's mental health, like what contributes to them, and how can we find a solution for these 3 issues that are causing a deterioration in the mental health of youth.
I'll take the first one.
Okay.
So we are a data-driven organization. It's so important that we know what our service users need support on, what are their primary concerns. This helps us identify training, it helps us identify how we can best support our service users. And so I think if we looked at 2020 as a whole, the primary concerns coming into the helpline are faith and spirituality, family issues, suicidal thoughts and ideation. That reached a record high in 2020. Thoughts around depression, anxiety, because of lockdown rules, and then the fear of like losing jobs and opportunities and things like that for young people.
So like, Hadil, do you want to go like through the potential solutions or anything like that could help help with the mental health of youth?
Sure. So of course, like based on background, it's quite hard to give specific advice, but just generally, I think the most important thing is for them to remember not to go through it alone. It's a lot better if you're getting support, whether that's social support from your friends, your family, or somebody you trust, or even if you're able to call into a helpline, not necessarily MYH, but a mental health professional who's able to help them. A lot of times, if you're going through something alone, it could be very easy to fall into negative or difficult coping mechanisms that can have worse outcomes in the long run. If they're able to find that specialist support early on, whether that's even just speaking with a friend, then it can help relieve some of that stress and the burden that they're carrying alone. Also, not bottling in your feelings. When you bottle it in and you go through things alone, it just will increase your stress and it could give you a worse outcome in the long run. I think that's probably the biggest thing that somebody can do. There's also a lot of tips online, such as using like the 5-4-3-2-1 technique when you're grounding yourself if you're going through your anxious thoughts or anxiety. Getting exercise and going outside is also a great stress relief. I know now it's a little bit difficult, but you could take advantage of, I think, that free 1 hour. I'm not up to date with the lockdown rules in the UK right now, but I think you can get out and, take a walk, even in the cold. And also, I think it's really important to prioritize yourself and not to feel guilty if you need to take a break, if you need to step outside. If you're unable to reach out to people and speak with them every day, it's important to prioritize yourself and your self-care. And if you need to take a break, that's completely okay as well.
So in terms of the lockdown rules in Canada, how strict are they, and how so me and Maria will potentially try to talk about the lockdown rules in England. Like, they're a bit here, a bit there at the moment. There's like a lot of things that the government have done which have increased the amount of coronavirus cases, but then blamed it on someone completely different, not taking the responsibility for it. So like, what kind of rules do you guys have to follow in Canada?
I mean, I think we have the same rules. We're in lockdown right now in my province. So you're only allowed to go out for essential things. I think you're allowed to go out for exercise as well. Wear a mask, that sort of stuff. But there's just no like non-essential travel to Canada. So you can't come unless you're Canadian or have like PR or something like that. I think that's probably the biggest difference, is that we're not allowing tourists then.
I think Canada is a really cold country. I've wanted to go there before. I was supposed to go there, I think last September, October time. But it never happened because of Corona, and it's kind of, I've not been out of the country for quite a while, so it's just stressful. But here, I think you're not allowed to go out for the same kind of things. You're only allowed to meet one person outside your support bubble, your family, outdoors. So you can't really mingle with more than one person who's not part of your support bubble outdoors. You can't meet anyone who's not part of your support bubble indoors. So it's quite difficult to stay away from your extended family, your friends for quite a while, but it's got to be done. And a lot of things that the government have brought forth in England is the Eat Out to Help Out scheme. I'm not sure if you were in England while it was going on, but I don't think I've seen as many people in my life in one place before. Like, it's a pandemic, and the government should have taken into account that we're going through a pandemic. If we do this, people are going to come out and eat at restaurants and stuff like that ridiculously. And there were so many lines in a lot of places, and it's just ridiculous. No social distancing, no masks, nothing like that. And I think that's one of the things that the government fails to acknowledge, is the ridiculous Eat Out to Help Out scheme. Maury, do you want to say anything about the lockdown rules? Do you want to exert frustration or anything like that?
I was actually reflecting on that. I think it was the time, it was between the two Eids, that period, right? It was almost like we had a bit of a respite from lockdown. Like, the government was like, oh, it's okay, guys, like, chill, go out, it's fine. And it almost made us feel like, oh yeah, it's okay, like the numbers are good, COVID cases are really low. They're clearly telling us to go out and eat and help the economy. Like, we're getting out of this, and it's a good sign. And
little did we know,
like, it was such a tease, because they were like, yeah, it's going well, and then suddenly, like, whoa, you guys messed up. They were telling us like we messed up, and now the cases are high. So it was a weird period. It almost made us slightly forget about COVID, kind of, and then they brought us back in to a tiered system, and then a lockdown system. So it's
just gone downhill from March, basically. So it's quite frustrating, but
yeah. And I mean, now we're looking at I was speaking to a colleague yesterday, and we're trying to plan the next big thing in our calendar is going to be Ramadan, and so we're trying to identify how can we support young people in Ramadan. And as a helpline, the calls into the helpline increased a lot. The support that young people need in Ramadan is, and especially young people who need mental health support services, is very different. And so we were trying to identify, do we think it's going to be a tiered system Ramadan? Do you think it's going to be a lockdown Ramadan? And we were we think it's going to be a lockdown Ramadan. So that was quite hard to grapple with, because it's like, oh, it's going to be our second Ramadan in lockdown. And I think last year was very difficult because it was like the peak of COVID cases. And then this year we've got to remember that a lot of people will be having Ramadan without loved ones, because they've lost those loved ones in the past year, and it's going to be a very difficult Ramadan for young people. We're most likely going to be in lockdown, and the environment's going to be very difficult, and so we need to start preparing for that. And I think everyone needs to start thinking about how we are going to support ourselves and our communities, quite separately, but trying to be there for each other.
I think it was the first time anyone in the world potentially like had to spend most of Ramadan in their homes, and there was a lot of like, normally Ramadan is about going to the masjid, interacting with people, spending time with people, helping the poor, it's that. And there was a very restricted amount of stuff that we could do that we usually do in Ramadan. And for me personally, it was quite sad to see that not as many people in Tarawih in the mosque, not many people opening the iftar in the mosque. And it's just difficult to see, obviously. And for you guys, it's probably more difficult to cope with the amount of people that probably contact you in Ramadan. I mean, did you see a spike in people calling during Ramadan to the Muslim Youth Helpline? Maria or Hardil, which one are we going? Let's go Hardil, because we've not spoken to her a bit.
I think that because Ramadan was really close to the beginning of lockdown, we saw a spike. Anyways, and that could have been because of lockdown or because of Ramadan. But we're anticipating a potential spike this year, especially if we're still in lockdown. It really brings out your feelings of loneliness, especially, at a time when you're used to being surrounded by loved ones, going to the mosque on a daily basis, and the spiritual disconnection that might occur for some people when they're not there, when they're not at the mosque during Ramadan. So we're anticipating it, but only time will tell.
I mean, like, Ramadan's just around the corner as well, so it's going to be really kind of like stressful for you guys to kind of work out, what procedures you're going to put in place to help people, whether there potentially might be a spike in coronavirus cases. I think a recent governmental report found as well that the coronavirus has affected like ethnic Asian minority communities a lot more than the white community and stuff like that. And I think in terms of like government support in England as well, I'm not sure about Canada. In England, there's not been enough support for these kind of communities, and there's not been enough support for university students as well, who have been isolated in their dorms and corridors and stuff like that. So in terms of that, have you kind of reached out to councillors, MPs in your areas, or the Minister for Health or the Shadow Minister for Health, Rosalina Khan, about maybe lobbying the government to kind of like give you guys more support or stuff like that?
So I mean, you're quite right that the impact on the BME community has been very high, and a lot higher. And as a helpline, we see that. We've seen the increase in calls coming in, the nature of the calls coming in has shifted as well. But in response to how our organizations helping the community, MYH is a response to that. We are an organization that's been running for 20 years because we identify ourselves as being an answer for young people who don't see themselves reaching out to mainstream services, and they see themselves reaching out because they want support from someone who looks like them, sounds like them, understands their language, understands some of their concerns some of their cultural, religious concerns, and has that cultural faith and cultural sensitivity to it. And that's why MYH exists. It's an answer to, the support that young people need. In terms of, we spoke about Ramadan and being a very difficult time and people not engaging with their community the way that they would. One thing that I wouldn't say surprises me, because I know that the Muslim community always come together, to do good. But in Ramadan, when we were almost told that we couldn't have Ramadan how we usually have Ramadan, the Muslim community, we're very quick to look at alternative ways to, have a good, successful Ramadan where we are doing good, where we are there for our community. And so what COVID has taught us is that, we can't grieve together as a community how we used to, but there are so many ways that we are connecting. We are still reaching out, we are still connecting digitally, because that's what makes us as a community, and Ramadan was no different, and I have every faith that this Ramadan will be the same. We're going to get through it. And so you speak about organizations reaching out to us. We always need support. We always need funding. Our missed calls are on the rise because our calls into the helpline are on the rise. And so we're always looking for people to support us. Number one, by spreading the word and telling young people that there is a service like MYH. And number two, by donating to MYH so that we can continue running our services. But as a community, the Muslim community have rallied around us, and they see us as a great organization for young people, and young people are our future. So they are reaching out to us. If they can't donate, they're emailing us and telling us they're thinking of us, or they wish they could volunteer some of their time or their skills. It's a good feeling getting those emails, because that people appreciate the work that we're doing on the ground, and that's really, really important.
That's good. I've got a few questions from Brother Shahid and a few other people as well. So a lot of people are, saying, keep up the great work, important topic, great work as usual, keep it up, great discussion, really important to raise awareness. So a lot of people are kind of like gaining benefit from you two guys coming onto this platform and talking about Muslim Youth Helpline, and hopefully that these guys can spread the word for you guys, and tell people that Muslim Youth Helpline is an organization out there that helps youth with mental health and provides a support service for them in alleviating and helping gain a better mentally stable mental health as well. So one of the questions that I have here is, which city in the UK is going through youth mental health crisis the most? And I don't know whether you guys will know that, because as Hardin mentioned, you don't keep any records of the people that call you, and I'm not sure, I'm guessing you don't ask them as well where they are calling from. Am I right in assuming that?
So we do collect data on things like age and gender as much as we can, just to identify for our own purposes, training and where we can reach out more. So for instance, if we know that there is a particular area in the UK where our services aren't as high, we want to reach out to those schools and organizations and mosques and youth centers and make sure that they know that we exist and we are a free resource for young people. In terms of which city, we wouldn't be able to say, but I mean, we get traffic into the helpline from across the UK, which is something that we pride ourselves on. We would like that to continue, and to make sure that it's equally spread throughout the UK, so that we are reaching every young person that needs support. But we couldn't name and shame a city because we don't know the details.
No, that's completely understandable. I mean, there's a few more questions as well in terms of the background of people that call in and stuff like that, but I'm gonna kind of ignore those questions and kind of concentrate on the more generic questions. So what is the common mental health issue that young people are facing? It could be depression, stress, anxiety, stuff like that. Hadil, do you want to kind of go through this one with us? Because I kind of did say Mario will go first, but if Mario goes first, then there's little for you to say. So we'll kind of mix it up a bit. So, how do you can go for it.
Okay, sure. So I think just in terms of our top primary concerns, in the mental health realm, the top one that we do get into the helpline is depression, followed by anxiety, and then followed by suicide or suicidal thoughts. And then followed by other mental health concerns. This isn't necessarily reflective of all of the UK, but just based on our service users themselves.
That's really good. I mean, I personally didn't know suicidal thoughts and stuff like that were a big issue in terms of mental health. I thought depression, anxiety was kind of the main one, but it's like news to my ears as well that, you know, people do have, like, a lot of people have starting to have suicidal thoughts, especially since the start of COVID as well, since the start of COVID. So yeah, that's good. So there's another question. What do you think Rexism in UK? I'm not sure what the brother means by that question. It's probably like some kind of mental health tablet or something, but because none of us are mental health, like we're not pharmacists or like professionals who give medicine for mental health, I don't think it would be wise to answer that question. How do you avoid getting stressed during lockdown? Like, obviously, I think Hardil spoke about the 5-step rule or something, or was it 1, 2?
Yeah, that was a grounding technique. Like 5.
What do you mean by that?
So a lot of times when people are going through anxiety or anxious thoughts, they may feel a bit disengaged from reality, and they need to kind of come back. So grounding technique like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 engages all of your senses, so you can feel grounded and like you're present in the moment. So that's like naming 5 things around you, touching 4 things, 3 smells, 2 other senses I can't think of at the moment.
Shall I read it?
Pardon, Maria?
I have it up. Shall I read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it's so firstly, it's to look around the room and name 5 things that you can see. And then it's 4 things that you can feel. And then it's 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste.
Mine was out of order, but
I guess it doesn't really, does it matter?
Not really.
Really, yeah.
It's to really bring you to the present.
No, I mean, that's a really good method, I think. Like, it kind of like calms you down as well. Just if you like, if I just think about it as well, it kind of does calm you down, because even like if we talk about that Islamic perspective, like the Prophet ﷺ said, whenever you're like you're stressed, you know, angry, or you have like kind of like frustration within you, if you're standing up, sit down, take a breath, this, that. If you're sitting down, stand up, walk around, this, that. So like there's a lot of things in like religious sciences as well that can help you cope with mental health and stuff, because different people have their comfort in different things. So one person who's sporty, his comfort might be gym when he's stressed, when, you know, he's depressed. I'm going to go to the gym. She's going to go to the gym and stuff like that. Another person might want to stay at home, pray to God, you know, go to the mosque, go to the church, go to the Gurdwara, and, you know, pray to their gods there. And, you know, that's their comfort zone. That's in whom they seek comfort and mental stability as well. And what they're emotionally reliable on places like this or actions like that. So it's a really good method. We've got another question from Sarah. What are your top tips to good mental health during lockdown? So I'll start off, because I've done like a few podcasts on mental health. I think one of the main things is not to stay in like your own house or your flat or rooms for like all day. Don't do that. Don't keep yourself you know, locked in a room doing one thing. Make sure you go for a walk at least once a day, get that fresh air and stuff like that. So Mario, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I will go next. So that's a really good tip, and I think what we also spoke about is continue doing the things that you love, your hobbies. It can be very difficult at the moment when some of the things that we usually tap into have been taken away from us, but do incorporate in your day something, set aside some time to do something that you enjoy. That's really, really important. At the moment, I mean, I was reading up on something recently, and it said that, you know, there's a reason why we think that, you know, the months and the weeks are going by so quickly. It's because our routine is so similar that we can't, you know, there is nothing extraordinary that happens in the day that kind of distinguishes one day from the other. So it almost seems like today I was just thinking, oh my God, it's Jummah. Like, where did the week go? I'm trying to identify what I did each day, but each day is very similar. It's so hard to, so try to include, maybe just be in the weekend or in the evening, try to include a hobby that you really, really enjoy, something that makes you feel happy, and don't feel guilty about doing it, you know, appreciate it. It's for your well-being. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Hadil?
Kind of bouncing off of Maria, but I think it's also really important to separate your work day and your school day from the rest of your home life, especially because you might be sitting in the same spot all day. So like Maria said, just engaging in an activity that you like in the evening, something that really makes you feel like you're not just working around the clock or you're not in class around the clock.
Yeah, that's really good tips.
I don't know if
So
I don't know if you do this, but tell me if you do this. But some people try this. I've not tried it, and I think it's a good thing. They sit and work in a different place in the morning, and then after lunchtime they move to a different place in their house, and then after lunch they move to a different place in their house. So they almost have different. You don't do that. I don't do that either. But I thought it was interesting. But also, it's nice to have your work in a particular place and then your home life, and it doesn't just kind of like spill over to the other. So I guess it depends. People work in different ways, but try and see what works best for you and figure it out.
That's really good advice. We've got another question from Tanji. She said, what's a way to introduce talking about mental health with parents who may not understand it? This is one of my friends, I believe, Tanji. She's from London, and she just asked this question: what's a way to introduce talking about mental health with parents who may not understand it? And I think I'm just going to contribute to that question as well. Is like, we know that mental health is kind of a taboo topic in the Asian community. I mean, me and Maria might we can relate to this more than potentially you, Hadil, because I'm not sure about your culture, but in our culture, mental health is seen as something like someone's done black magic on him, someone's put nazar on him, someone's done this on him, someone's done that on him. And I found that to be very common in our community. And so like, how could a person talk to their parents or grandparents or relatives about their mental health? How can, they introduce it to them by, stressing that, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling anxiety, this is wrong with me, how do I sort this out? How can they start this conversation about this topic with their parents?
Hadil, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I think one important thing to stress is that mental health comes under the same umbrella as physical health at the end of the day. Just the same way that a flu might attack your body, depression and anxiety can attack your brain and your body by extension as well. So I think that's one thing to really remember and to try to get across. There's also no real fight between religion and mental health either. Like our religion, I think, really accepts it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of really great talks online by like reputable scholars and stuff like that they're able to show. And also getting mosques engaged, I think, is quite important in community groups. That's something that we're really interested in looking into in the future in 2021, is really getting that elderly population that may not necessarily accept mental health or understand mental health. When you get somebody who they really trust in their community to be able to tell them, then I think that creates some sort of trust and removes some of the barriers between our understanding and maybe their understanding.
It's so important.
Sorry, Mari, do you want to say something?
Sorry. I was going to say it's so important that one of the other aims of our organization it's not just to make sure that we're providing a platform for young people to tap into to get the support, but it's also so that we are engaging with other community groups and destigmatizing mental health. It's so important that eventually, and one of the aims is, at a community level and in the home, the mental health and well-being discussions are being had at the dinner table. It could just easily be conversations like, how was your day? How are you feeling today? And if you need a space or if you need to talk to someone, you can tap into that. It's so important that safe space is created at the home level. Because if it's not, people aren't talking about it. If they're not talking about it, they're not coping with it.
Yeah, that's kind of a good point. Someone said, in terms of, when you mentioned about moving to other rooms and stuff like that after you've done a particular task, Sarah said that yes, she does that. She says, yes, I do that too, Maria. So you've got someone who actually practices that. I was just gonna ask Sarah if she's still watching, if like she finds it beneficial for her and stuff like that. If you can just feedback on that.
I'll try it.
Yeah, you can try it too,
Right.
and I'll try it as well. But me personally, I find comfort in going for, you know, a quiet walk, and just like looking at the sky and, you know, looking at my surroundings and stuff like that, and taking in, you know, beauty, if there is any, in terms of like nature and stuff like that. So yeah, that's something that I personally do. What about you, Hadi? Like in Canada, I think it's full of snow, isn't it? Like, is there anything else apart from snow?
We have normal,
All the Canadian stereotypes are coming out.
right? It's just a bit right now. We actually have like a bit of a windstorm, so I'm not going outside today. But usually I'll go out for like a drive or something, or I'll go for a walk. There's like a lot of like nature areas near us, so that's about it.
Nature areas. You know, one thing that whenever Canada pops up to my mind, I think of like cottages and snow. That's literally the only two things that come to my mind. No trees, no leaves, nothing. I don't know why.
There's lots of trees.
There is. Okay, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. At least I know that now. If someone, this is another question. We'll let Hadil answer this question. What is the worst case of mental health you guys have dealt with, or you guys have heard, and stuff like that?
I mean, I don't know if we can say anybody's the worst case of mental health. I think we've had lots of severe cases come in that we've had to deal with in different ways, but there's nothing that really stands out, and I don't think there's necessarily a way to categorize that something is considered the worst case of mental health. There are quite serious cases involving like safeguarding that we sometimes have to take part in. Obviously, those with an issue around suicide or suicidal calls are quite serious as well. But yeah, I don't know, Maria, you can step in. I don't know that we can necessarily categorize one case as the worst.
Yeah,
I kind of understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, it's even within, it might not be a case around suicide or self-harm, but the person is in a very dangerous situation. It could be they're in an abusive relationship. It could be high levels of depression because they have a gambling addiction and they're in debt. You know, so each story is very different, and each story is very alarming for us, and we've got to make sure that we are supporting that person as best as we can, and then we're getting them that additional support that they need. So there are so many variations of, you know, why people are going through high stress, anxiety, and sometimes we don't get the complete full picture, because sometimes the calls can last for 45 minutes, and in that 45 minutes, you know, that person has given us their story, but we never really know how safe they really are. But I agree with Hadil that, you know, the safeguarding concerns are the ones that we then do need to escalate, and they are concerns around self-harm, abuse, and suicidal thoughts.
I kind of understand that as well. Like, there's a lot of cases, and to the individual, his person, what he's going through is always going to seem like, to that person, that individual, that his case is the most severe. That's just like human nature, you know. You kind of, like, mental health is one of those things where you can't really, it's a thing where it's like you only think of yourself and your own mental state. Like, it makes you like that. It makes you think like that. And I think that's like one of the things about mental health, which isn't really nice. And people who go through it, you know, they're so strong that at the end, when, you know, they find a solution to it and they get on top of it, it's something that, you know, I have a huge amount of respect for as well, and respect for you guys as well for, you know, doing this work, because it's not easy, you know, managing a helpline like this, and, you know, listening to people who are going through like the worst time of their lives. So, you know, massive respect to you guys, and a massive shout out to Muslim Youth Helpline. So I've got another question here from Shahid. It's not worded very well, but I'll just rephrase it. So we have domestic violence and we have child abuse that takes place in a lot of households. But in terms of domestic violence, in terms of domestic violence in a married couple, in a family, there's this like Punjabi saying, where it's something like so ik jub so suk. If you stay silent on one issue, the outcome, like you're going to get 100 benefits from it. It's a really old saying in the Punjabi, Pakistani, Indian, Bangladeshi culture, where it's kind of targeted at the female unjustly, wrongly, that if you stay silent, if your husband mistreats you, or he does the slightest thing to hurt you emotionally or mentally or physically, if you stay silent, at the end of the day, you're going to get a lot of benefit out of it more than anything else, because then she's got to consider what's going to happen to her children, what's going to happen to her family's going to break if she leaves her husband and stuff like that. And I think what the questioner here is trying to ask is, how can you avoid getting into that situation, getting into, like, how can you pull away from being in a domestic relationship? What's the best way to do it?
Hadil, do you want to go?
Sure. I think it's quite difficult to tell somebody that they can avoid a situation. People change, situations change, so it's quite difficult, I think, to tell somebody beforehand. I think what's most important is getting the victims the support that they need in order to escape those types of situations. And I think now we're really blessed to be in a country that has a lot of support services that can get you out of that. And I think before there was a lot of reliance on like financial support and stuff like that. And like you said, keeping the family together, and a lot of negative and a bit outdated thinking, I think, with regards to the woman having to sacrifice herself for the happiness of the whole. But what's great, I think, in the UK is that there are a lot of services that can get support for the women, for the children, just to remove you from that difficult situation. But it's quite important for people going through it to reach out, whether it's to a first step like MYH or to those support services directly. A lot of them are quite culturally and religiously sensitive as well. And getting you out of that situation can be difficult, taking that first step. But I think as soon as you're out of it, then a whole new world opens up in terms of the support that you can get.
I think it's important to also highlight, if this case was to come, this scenario was to come to MYH, what would we do about it? And I think that's important to highlight our remit. And so if someone is coming to us and they're explaining to us their story, and that they are unhappy in a situation or a relationship, for us, we provide emotional support. So we provide them that safe space where they can discuss their concerns, and we work with them to identify, some of their options, what their next steps should be, just to make sure that they are okay. And sometimes it's just for them to explain to us or just open up, and that we might be the first people that they are talking to about this, and they feel comfortable because, number one, we're not in their friend circle, we don't know them, it's someone that does not know their personal situation. So they almost feel comfortable offloading. And then what we do is, the next steps are beyond our remit. So that's where our signposting referrals comes in. We work with so many organizations that we can then signpost, support this person to get additional support. What does that look like? It could be, like Hadil said, that, financial support. It could be another helpline, or it could be a counseling service, or a mosque, or linking them to an imam, whatever that may look like, we're able to do that. So that's where, the MYH ecosystem is, we are that emotional support, and then we make sure that, that person is getting additional support if they need it.
I've got another question here. You mentioned it before as well, but I think this person wasn't tuning in, like they just tuned in the last 5-10 minutes. The question is, in what ways has COVID changed levels of mental health in youth? So since March, the first lockdown, if you take into consideration the amount of youth who called you before that and after that till this point.
Do you want me? Okay.
Yeah. So what was the question?
Oh, so in what ways has COVID changed levels of mental health in youth?
I mean, firstly, we've seen a huge increase in traffic into the helpline, and that tells you that, you know, a lot of young people are suffering. They want to talk, they want to get support services for them, you know, to get emotional support. We saw a 313% increase into the helpline. More people are reaching out. Also, you know, Hadil spoke about the severity of some of those concerns that are coming into the helpline. We're getting a lot more mental health concerns coming into the helpline. We've had calls around suicide on the increase and continues to be on the rise since the beginning of lockdown until now. And, you know, we are almost seeing a year of the pandemic, and that continues to be across the board quite high. And then these go back to concerns like, you know, we spoke about the loneliness, the isolation, the lack of routine, the unknown, the impact that, you know, COVID has had on our communities. And we're talking about the Muslim community. And this is the, you know, bereavement, grief, not grieving in the usual way that we are known as a community to do that. It's almost like, you know, we talk about when this is over, what is going to happen. And I always say to myself, we're grieving now, and then when lockdown happens, when lockdown's over, we're going to have to do it all over again, because almost like we've not done it properly. It's almost not done how we know it's to be done, and almost people aren't getting that closure. And I think, you know, we talk about how our service is very busy at the moment because of lockdown, and how maybe after lockdown it will change. I think it will continue. You know, our communities are suffering at the moment, and mental health concerns aren't being looked after, and when they're not looked after, they exacerbate. So this is a pandemic that we are going to be looking at for years to come, because of what's happening at the moment and how difficult people are finding it.
How, do you want to add anything, or do you think she's hit the nail on the head?
I think she's hit the nail on the head.
I think that's it for questions. There's another one from Sarah. We'll end with this question, and then we'll just quickly speak about Muslim Youth Helpline and the services you have in place. How can we get into contact with you, and a little bit about Muslim Youth Helpline generally as well. So the question is, how can you look out for your family, friends, colleagues during lockdown? It's difficult when you can't pick up on those visual cues that we would typically pick up in person. So yeah, how can you look out for your family, friends, colleagues during lockdown? It's quite difficult as well, because you can't meet them. So you've got to like take into consideration that.
I mean, services like Zoom have made it really easy for you to connect with people online, and that can help you with physical cues. Obviously, you can't physically be there and help them and get that understanding, but I think just taking care of your mental health so that you're able to take care of others is really good. Reaching out to people, whether it's a text message or just whether you're able to meet online on Zoom or something like that, shows that you care and shows that people do have support. But I think definitely if you're able to take care of yourself, then you'll be able to help out others as well.
I understand that. Maury, do you want to add anything to that before we move on to our closing remarks?
I'd say look out for little cues. You know, people are not behaving themselves. You know, maybe give them space, but also tell them, you know, I am here if you want to talk. Create that safe space that they may not necessarily want to talk to you now, but, you know, now is this time to really start talking about mental health, so that one day, if anyone does need to tap into you or, you know, speak to you about something, they don't feel afraid to. It's another thing that, I mean, Hadil just mentioned is, you know, taking care of your own mental health. That's so important. If you are talking openly about, you know, your own well-being, it almost tells our younger generation that, you know, if they can have a difficult day and they're openly talking about it, it doesn't make me a lesser person for having a difficult day or struggling. So we need to set that example for our younger generation, because they almost don't know what to do when they are overwhelmed. If they've not seen anyone speak about it previously, it's like, oh, no one does speak about it. Everyone else is coping. Am I the only one? Which is not a good environment to kind of create. But yeah, that's
yeah, I think I hope Sarah's heard that answer. Still waiting on her reply to that room thing does she move to room? Does she find it beneficial? But yeah, Muslim Youth Helpline provide a phone service to young people who are suffering from mental health. It isn't just specifically for Muslims, right? It's generally for youth, but you guys just named it for Muslims, I'm assuming.
Go ahead, Adil.
So the other way around, it is focused to Muslims, but the youth part is kind of general. We do get calls from people all over. We won't turn anyone away, whether they're Muslim or not.
That's good. But yeah, I think a lot of churches have services as well, similar to, you know, Christian mental health forum. I know one that works specifically with Christians, but offers their services to a range of different cultures and religions. But yeah, it's, you know, it's something that you guys. Yeah, it's something that, you know, it's beautiful. And I think the reason why people do that is there are some people who like to speak to, like, some Muslims like to speak about their problems with Muslims, because sometimes they can relate to that problem more than, you know, a person of a different faith can. And I think that's why, you know, for example, you guys have decided to call yourselves Muslim Youth Helpline, and, you know, the other mental health forum have decided to call themselves Christian Mental Health Forum. So yeah, in terms of your guys' contact details, your websites, your social media platforms, do you guys have any that you want to share with the viewers and the listeners?
Yes, so our helpline is open from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. We're a free service. We're open every day. You can email us, you can web chat us, you can call us, and now, most recently, we've added WhatsApp to our services. So you can also WhatsApp us. And so all those details are on our website, mych.org.uk, and you can call us on 0808 808 2008. And we're on all of the social medias apart from TikTok. If anyone has any TikTok information, please send it to us. You know, maybe we should be on TikTok, but we are on all of the platforms. And we, depending on the platform, we put out a lot of content as well. So do follow us. We've got some amazing tips and tricks every day. We're engaging with our beneficiaries, and we're talking about coping mechanisms. We're putting out positive information and positive mindset. So it's always great to have us on your Instagram, your Twitter, your Facebook, if people still use Facebook, I'm not sure. Yeah.
I think one of my friends yesterday said to me, because I do a lot of public speaking about education, mental health, religion, culture, and stuff like that. He said that TikTok's a good platform to, like, upload short burst talks, you know, for like 10, 30, 40 seconds. And maybe that's something you guys should look into, you know, how to preserve mental health in like a minute clip, put it on TikTok. Muslim Youth Helpline goes famous. Maria is a TikTok sensation. Hadil's a TikTok sensation, and, you know, Muslim Youth Helpline, you know, gets a lot of funding from there, because a lot of people do stuff like that, motivational speaking.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at TikTok, and it's so important to know what our beneficiaries are using, because I mean, we're a service for the young people, and so if the young people aren't no longer looking at a particular social media site, you know, we need to move with the times, because we want to make sure that that content is being delivered to them in the best way possible. So, you know what, maybe we're just going to have to do a TikTok page soon, and we're going to go viral, and then, you know, yeah.
Yeah, then I'll probably be like, you know, Mario can have an autograph, Hadil can have an autograph. Hadil's gonna have to, you know, send it first class. Canada, yeah. But yeah, it's been really great talking to you guys about Muslim Youth Helpline mental health. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. A big massive thank you to New Horizons, New Horizons Trust, who have organized this program alongside Karimia. A massive thank you to Brother Atif in the background, who's managing all this technologically, if that is a word. And massive shout out to Brother Shahid as well, who has organized this, reached out to Maria and Hadil. And a massive shout out to Maria and Hadil for, you know, working and making sure that their services are the best to the recipients. And, you know, as I said, Khidmatul Khalq, doing the khidmah of the community, serving the community, is one of the best things that, you know, as a Muslim you can do, and truly your reward lies with God. And I'm sure, you know, somewhere down the line we'll see that those TikTok videos and hopefully we can, listen to your guys' talks on mental health and stuff. But I do a podcast as well called Reaching Horizons, and it'll be fantastic to get you guys on there and talk about mental health and stuff. It's on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So it'll be very good to get you guys on there and talk about it. And it also gets uploaded on YouTube and Facebook. This is uploaded on YouTube and Facebook as well. You'll be able to see this, and you'll be able to just, spread this around to your colleagues and family and friends. And it was a good talk on mental health. So a big thank you for you guys coming in. Do you guys want to say anything before we go?
Thank you for having us, and thank you for giving us a platform to talk about such an important topic. Yeah, it's been amazing. Please support us. Please spread the word about Muslim Youth Helpline, that we are a free service and we're available for young people, and that we're open every day from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. And please support us, donate to our page. Yeah, we're doing, it's a much needed service for young people, and the numbers tell us that it's a much needed service right now.
Adil, you've been very quiet, so I thought, let's
finish with a bang. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us. We're really grateful you're able to give MYH this platform, and it was really great speaking with you as well and getting everyone's questions and opinions. So thank you.
So just again, what was your guys' website?
mych.org.uk.
Okay, I'll put that in the chat, and it's the same for social media platforms. Muslim Youth Helpline, I'm assuming. If they put that on Instagram and stuff like that, they'll be able to find you easily, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you. A massive shout out to everyone tuning in. Brother Ansar Mahmood from Birmingham, Sully and Valid from Birmingham, Mikey, Rana, Sarah, Tanji from London, and all the other brothers and sisters who have tuned in. But yeah, a massive thank you to you guys for coming in as well. And as I said, I'll reach out to you guys and get you on Reaching Horizons on the show, and hopefully we can have you talking about mental health there as well. Thank you.
Great.
Take care, guys. Stick to social distancing, whether you're in Canada or England.